So her father refused spinal surgery, emptied her accounts, and still shared her exact route before the crash. Tell me something. How does that become just an accident? Unless somebody already made a decision beforehand.
Don't approve the surgery. Those were the first words Captain Elena Brooks heard after waking up in the hospital. Not from a doctor. From her father. The pain in her spine was so sharp she could barely breathe, but somehow Richard Brooks sounded more concerned about money than the fact his daughter had nearly died. Through the half-open curtain, Elena heard him arguing with hospital staff. "She's a failure," he snapped. "I'm not throwing away thousands of dollars on someone who'll never repay me." Can you imagine hearing that while lying in a hospital bed? Rain still hammered the windows from the storm that caused the crash. Elena's car had flipped twice on a mountain road during her drive home. Doctors were saying the next few hours would determine whether she ever walked again. But instead of staying beside her, her father signed refusal papers and told her younger brother Dylan they could still make their vacation flight that night. And just before Richard walked out of the hospital, a nurse rushed toward Elena's room holding a phone and whispered, "Captain, someone from the Department of Defense is demanding to speak with you immediately." What exactly had Elena been involved in? That question wouldn't leave the nurse's face after the Defense Department call came through. Elena tried sitting up, but pain exploded through her back so violently she nearly screamed. A doctor pushed her back down and warned her the spinal swelling was getting worse. Surgery couldn't wait much longer. But her father had already left. And that wasn't even the worst part. Before we continue with this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. While hospital staff thought Elena was unconscious earlier that night, Richard had been standing at the billing desk demanding access to her finances. Since his name was still attached to an old emergency account from her military academy years, he tried convincing administrators he had the right to protect family assets. Protect them from what? His own daughter surviving? Elena finally understood something she'd ignored her entire life. Her father never saw her as family, only as an investment that disappointed him. Her younger brother Dylan got everything growing up: cars, vacations, praise. Elena got criticism. Even after becoming a decorated military intelligence officer, Richard called her career a government dead end. So from her hospital bed, hands shaking from medication, Elena changed her emergency contact, removed her father from every account, and authorized military legal protection. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, the caller said 4 chilling words. "Captain, your crash wasn't accidental. Your brake line was cut." Elena froze. For a second, even the machines beside her bed seemed to go silent. The military investigator on the phone lowered his voice and explained that forensic teams had already inspected her wrecked vehicle. The damage patterns didn't match a normal accident. Someone had tampered with the car before she ever touched the road. And suddenly, the fear hit differently. Because Elena wasn't just a soldier. For the past year, she'd been working intelligence operations connected to illegal weapons contracts overseas. Classified work. Dangerous work. The kind that made enemies quietly. But almost nobody knew where she was stationed. So, how had someone known exactly where she'd be driving that night? Then Elena remembered something that made her stomach turn.
Wait, if almost nobody knew about her route, why was that contractor asking detailed questions before the crash happened? That doesn't sound random anymore.
3 days before the crash, Richard had pressured her into attending a family dinner with one of Dylan's business partners, a smug contractor named Gavin Mercer, who kept asking strange questions about Elena's schedule. At the time, she ignored it. Now, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Meanwhile, back at the beach resort, Richard's vacation started falling apart fast. His cards were suddenly frozen from pending fraud reviews tied to Elena's accounts. Military legal services had revoked every authorization connected to her name. Then hotel staff handed him an envelope marked Federal Investigation Notice. Richard's hands started shaking before he even opened the envelope. At first, he thought it was a mistake, some bureaucratic mix-up. But the moment he read the words Active Federal Inquiry, the color drained from his face. Dylan grabbed the paper and laughed nervously. "Dad, what did you do?" Richard immediately called Elena. She answered on the third ring. For a moment, neither of them spoke. All Elena could hear was ocean waves and distant music from the resort that her father chose over staying beside her hospital bed. Then Richard exploded. "What kind of stunt are you pulling?" he shouted. "My accounts are being flagged. Federal agents contacted me." Elena stared at the ceiling above her hospital bed, her legs still numb beneath the blankets. "You left me before you even knew if I'd survive," she said quietly. Richard tried blaming stress, money, the hospital, but Elena interrupted him with one sentence that finally silenced him. "They found evidence my crash was intentional." Nothing came out of his mouth after that, because deep down, Richard remembered something he hadn't told investigators yet. Gavin Mercer had asked detailed questions about Elena's route the night before the crash, and Richard had answered every single one. Then there was a knock at his hotel door. Two men in military uniform were waiting outside. Richard opened the hotel door expecting intimidation. Instead, he got the truth. Standing outside was Colonel Marcus Hale alongside two federal investigators.
Calm.
Controlled. Terrifying. They explained that Gavin Mercer had already been arrested hours earlier. After investigators searched his office, they uncovered encrypted payments tied to illegal weapons contracts and messages discussing Elena's movements before the crash. Richard never ordered the attack, but investigators confirmed he had unknowingly provided Gavin with Elena's travel route during that family dinner. That single conversation almost got his daughter killed. And when hospital recordings surfaced of Richard calling Elena a failure not worth the surgery, everything collapsed socially overnight. Friends distanced themselves. Business partners cut ties. Even Dylan moved out after learning their father abandoned Elena during a life-threatening emergency. Meanwhile, Elena's surgery succeeded. Weeks later, after brutal rehab sessions and sleepless nights, she finally stood on her own again. Not perfectly, not easily, but standing. Then Colonel Hale handed her a military commendation and quietly said, "Your mother would have been proud of you." Elena broke down crying for the first time since the crash. Not because she almost died, because she finally understood she never needed her father's approval to matter.
Honestly, the part that stays with me isn't the crash. It's how easily one casual conversation exposed everything. Makes you wonder how many people get hurt by someone they trusted completely.